going to unpack this with political analyst Xu Qinduo, who's in Beijing. Thank you so much, Xu, for your time on this news hour. This is the Chinese defense minister's first overseas trip. What should we be reading into it in the fact that he has gone to Russia to meet President Putin and the Russian defense minister as his first overseas and foreign visit?
This is his first visit, partly because he's with the task to implement whatever policies China has with Russia, and also it's a follow-up of President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia last month. So usually this is a Chinese practice. At the highest level, there are guidelines or there are policies toward certain countries. And in particular, if there is a leadership summit and they agreed upon a set of rules, a set of guidelines, usually that guidelines will be strictly implemented on the Chinese side at least. So this is the way they conduct foreign policy. So that's part of his job for this visit. And secondly, I think he's new to this position. And he's visiting one of the most important countries to China. And that's just like natural, I would say. He's not going to the U.S. because he's on the sanction list. So it's just natural to me.
Do you think that they will discuss the Ukraine situation? China has proposed a peace agreement. They've spoken to Russia about it. Have yet to speak to Ukraine about that agreement. But do you think this is an issue that will be brought up over the course of his visit there?
We don't know so far. Probably not, because his job description, his defense minister, he's in charge of the defense of the Chinese nation. He's not about making peace there in terms of the Ukraine situation. I would say if he's talking about Ukraine situation, probably that's the foreign minister or Mr. Wang Yi, the director of the foreign affairs of the CPC. So I don't believe that would be his priority to talk about peace in Ukraine. He's mostly about the China-Russia relationship, modernization of the Chinese military, and also the exchanges and cooperation with the Russian side. Previously, he was in charge of the modernization process of the PLA. So probably that's his strength, and that will continue to be a priority of his job, I would say.
And what do you think some of the other issues are that they will discuss? They've both emphasized the importance of a good relationship between China and Russia when it comes to regional stability, but I would imagine also global issues at stake here.
Yes, because both nations are, they are the big five, we call it, the UN Security Council, permanent members of the UN Security Council, the most powerful countries in the world. 2 out of 5 are China and Russia. So their cooperation and their exchanges, in whatever direction, that will have a global impact as well as regional impact. For example, in Asia, East Asia, they have joined a joint military exercise, which is important in terms of stability or maintaining the order since the World War II. Because if you take a close look at for example, Japan is rearming its military. That's probably alarming message to neighboring countries, including China, Russia, even South Korea. Countries who suffered like 70 years ago from the Japanese brutal militarism. And also, of course, because of the relationship between China and the US, which is worsening with every passing day. So you can say the cooperation between Beijing and Moscow has a probably extra importance that goes beyond the regional but a global scale. The U.S. is trying to maintain its global hegemony. Of course, the U.S. is not happy to see China and Russia cooperating with each other. U.S. is trying to contain both nations in Europe and in Asia. Naturally, in that sense, China and Russia need to cooperate with each other because they have a common enemy in the U.S., right? So that's that simple, I would say. Of course, people say, how can China have a good relationship with Russia? Because Russia invaded Syria, but also U.S. invaded Iraq. U.S. invaded a lot of countries. If you look at the European countries, they enjoyed, better than ever relationship with the U.S. Did they impose sanctions on Russia, on the United States? No. Did they, isolate the United States? No. So why should China isolate Russia? Remember, more than 140 or larger number of countries, they didn't impose sanctions on Russia. They maintained a neutral stance on Russia. So is China. I think so is Turkey too.
Xu, appreciate your analysis, speaking to us there from the Chinese capital. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.